The Journal of Organic Systems links the effects of GMOs to 22 diseases with a very high correlation between the two. And 64 countries around the world require that GMO foods are labeled, but the US does not. That's a huge problem. So today I want to talk to you guys about what effects the GMOs actually do have on your health and why I believe that they should be mandatory to be labeled in everywhere, including the US. So we're going to talk about what a GMO is, how you can avoid them, what they're doing to our health, and how you can get rid of them in our country today. So today we're going to talk about first what a GMO is. And a GMO is a genetically modified organism, and that means that their genetic material has been altered. And usually with the foods, it's that they're inserting insecticides and pesticides into the plant so that the plant can produce more food. And with animals, those animals are eating the food, and I'll talk more about that later. But it's not just limited to plants, like I just said. The top 10 plants that we have that are GMO'd are soy, corn, canola oil, cotton, milk, sugar, aspartame, and then papaya. Some of those are a little out there, but you still want to avoid them at all costs if they're GMO'd. With livestock, like chickens and cows, those things are eating the foods that we are growing with these insecticides in them, and you can't really get something that is well nourished from an animal that's eating things that are not nourishing. And I found that information from a website called cornucopia.org. And then another reason why you want to avoid GMOs is because of the correlation that you see with the increase of those diseases that I just was talking about. So in the study, they looked at the chemical glyphosate, which is in most of the bug repellents and insecticides, and they talked about how much it increased since 1996. And they did multiple studies on things like kidney disease, cancer, and a range of other diseases, and the increase in glyphosate since then compared to the increase in the diseases itself, and they were the same. They both increased, and over time everything's just getting worse. So what do we need to do to get rid of this problem that is affecting our country? So the only way we can get rid of it is by avoiding GMOs. So I'm going to give you some tips on how you can do that. The first thing you can do is you can buy organic foods. If it is labeled organic with this sign, that means they went through a lot of trouble and a lot of testing to prove that their product has no pesticides and that it was grown humanely and taken care of, like I said, without the pesticides. It's not genetically modified, and it is not exposing us to any toxins. So anything that says has that label on it is safe for you to eat. And you'll maybe just want to second avoid corn, soy, canola, and wheat unless it's whole grain. 90 to 95% of these things have become genetically modified, and that since the 1990s. And I found that on a blog from a health enthusiast. The third thing you can do is just educate yourself on what the GMOs are. There's actually a list, two lists that you can reference when you're looking at these things. The Clean 15 list tells you which fruits and vegetables are okay to buy non-organic. It means they're usually treated with low amounts of pesticides and taken care of humanely. And then you want to look at the Dirty Dozen also, which is 12 things that you don't want to buy unless they are organic, because they are treated heavily with pesticides and not taken care of humanely. The fourth thing you can do is shop at the perimeter of your store. Usually most things on the perimeter are going to be your natural foods, your vegetables, your fruits, your meat, and then your milk and your dairy. And you do want to be careful with those things too, because of like I said before, an animal that's not eating healthy things is not going to give out healthy things. So now I want to tell you about a few people who have been affected by GMOs and what they're doing that we could help them do now. So first I watched a TED Talk that Robin O'Brien was featured on, and her youngest child had an allergic reaction to an everyday breakfast that they had. They had Eggo waffles, eggs, and then yogurt tubes, and they had that quite often. But her child couldn't breathe, so she had to take her to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said she's having an allergic reaction, but the only thing that was different was the foods. So the mom did research to figure out why her child had this reaction to the foods and why that would be bad suddenly. And everything now is so highly processed with ingredients that are not fully what they say they are, that we can't do anything to change it except for read the ingredients. So you want to make sure you're reading the ingredients when you go to the store, because Robin now knows that her child can't have those things. And then secondly, I was watching Food Incorporated, which you can watch on Netflix, and it talks about the effects of GMOs. And there was a woman that spoke about her child who had died from spoiled meat that hadn't been recalled yet, that his immune system just couldn't handle because he was so young. And that's sad, because we should be able to catch those things before they happen. And now she's fighting to get a bill passed so that everything is labeled and more inspections are done, and they're taking better care of what is labeled organic and how our foods are being processed. So just like I stated above, there are things we can do as a society to aid in helping us get more information about what is GMO free and what has the GMOs. So with getting them labeled and more available to the public, we can do that. Not only would you want to do this for your own health, but your family's and our planet's health also. Our planet was not really meant to be, modified with all these pesticides and things. But what we should do is buy our organic foods, support our local farmers, and tell other people about the dangers of GMOs.